All right, so let's talk about Bronny, who goes number 55 to the Lakers, which was always the most likely outcome here. The Lakers were not drafting him with their first round pick. Bronny elected not to work out for any teams but the Lakers and Suns. And over the last couple of days, it just seemed, unless something shocking happened, he was going to go number 55 to the Lakers. I said earlier in the show that I am not outraged by the Lakers drafting Bronny, because if you're going to scream nepotism and wasted draft pick, I need you to go back on Basketball Reference and look at the number 55 picks over the last 10 years and tell me which one of them has worked out. I think you got to go back like 7 years to find a guy that played more than 3 seasons, sparingly in more than 3 seasons in the NBA. It is not a pick where you get a lot of value, that's for sure. And look, I know Bronny's numbers, 5 points per game, poor shooting at USC, but he did have a heart attack last summer, and he did have to slowly work his way back from that cardiac incident. And when I watch him, Kevin, I don't know if he's an NBA player. I hear the Davion Mitchell, comparisons, but there are very few Davion Mitchells, right? Guys that are small, great defensive players, they're very rare in coming out of the draft. But he does have good length. He does have good defensive instincts. He does have great athleticism. Put it this way. I think there have been lower upside picks at 55 than Bronny James. So yeah, you're doing that in part to placate LeBron. You want him to be happy. You want him to come back happy. And if you passed on him, that probably would have been a shitty conversation to have with him at some point. But I do think that drafting Bronny gives you a young player who's only, 18, 19 years old, who, you don't know. I don't think you can look at the stats from last year and say that's who Bronny James is. I honestly think if you gave him a full year back in college and he came out in next year's draft, he'd probably go a lot higher. He might even go somewhere in the back half of the first round. So I think the Lakers, in what is a relatively meaningless pick, got themselves a player that could turn out to be a part of their team.
Yeah, look, I thought it was funny. There's all this outrage about how this is a wasted draft pick and how could they do that? Yada yada yada. And then as they're discussing this, they announced the last pick in the draft by the Knicks, who is Ariel Hukporti from Germany, who played in Australia last year. And Gavoni comes on the screen, and I think his final words of the draft were, "Yeah, this guy will be overseas for a while, but could be a third string NBA center one day." And you're all right, people light second round picks on fire all the time. Why are we so offended by this use of lighting a second round pick on fire? If that's how you feel, right? Look, I think as I see things similar to you. I think Bronny is not a hopeless case. I think there's a chance he winds up being a valuable NBA player. It is a narrow path, obviously, but given the context of USC, I don't think it's fair to say he's completely done, right? And AJ Johnson went 23rd to the Bucks. He averaged 2.3 points per game in Australia last year. Why is that such a great pick? And Bronny at 55 is incomprehensible. At the end of the day, the Lakers got who they wanted, right? They got connected 17. That was a huge win. 3 guys came off the board after Bronny, and then they got to pick whoever they wanted in the undrafted market. Realistically, had they not drafted Bronny and they picked someone else at 55, it would have been one of the guys they probably tried to sign on a two-way in the minutes after the draft. This is not some huge disaster for the Lakers organization. This is not some massive problem, right? I share everyone else's question marks with Bronny, whether he will actually pan out as an NBA player, but I don't quite understand why people feel so strongly that it's a disastrous pick. I understand that people will say one more person could have heard their name called and had a dream realized, whatever. But look, life's not fair. There's plenty of guys who get their name called in the draft who have no business getting drafted that are stash picks. We're not that far removed from when people would sell second round picks for $1 million because they just didn't want it. Or why do we care so much? The NBA took 2 picks away for tampering, right? If we cared that much about everybody getting their name called, we wouldn't take picks away from teams. So I don't feel so strongly about it. I think 55 was the right place for him to go.
Heard their name called by Mark Tatum in a hostage video in a bunker at the ESPN studios. I'm with you there. That doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot to me. I do think, though, as we look at Bronny, I'm not convinced the Lakers are the best place for him to go. The scrutiny that's going to be on him is going to be so much bigger because he is, at least nominally, going to be sharing a locker room with his father. Now, we both know Bronny is most likely going to spend most of the year with the South Bay Lakers, playing in the G League and trying to develop there. But he'll spend some time, with the Lakers, on the Lakers, in the Lakers locker room, on their bench. And it's going to be kind of a circus. It is. It's great for him to get to play with his dad. I mean, again, I go back to what we said at the top. That's friggin' cool, man. Like, father-son duo, especially with LeBron still playing at the level that he's at. But for me, like, I wonder if it was a mistake to only work out for the two teams. Like, might a team like, I'm just making it up, like Orlando or Milwaukee or somebody else, if they had worked out Bronny, had more of a chance to talk to him, engaged more with him, would they have been interested in using a second-round pick to draft him? Like, Rich Paul obviously believes that whether it's Phoenix or LA, that was the best path for him. That was going to help him maximize his potential, and I respect it. I disagree a little bit. I think the spotlight is going to be so bright next year on Bronny playing alongside his dad that for his own development, for his own future, maybe getting away from that would be the best. Maybe like going to the San Antonio Spurs and, playing for the Austin, what is it, the Toros now? They're the Austin Spurs, whatever they are, playing for their G League affiliate. Maybe that would have been best for him. So that's my only question when it comes to Bronny. I think he's a perfectly valid number 55 pick. I don't know if the Lakers are the best place for him.
Yeah, look, I think the fishbowl is going to be real. It's going to be hard for him to deal with. I think the thing that was challenging for Rich Paul in this process probably was, at the end of the day, they needed to know that there was like a floor at 55 for Bronny, right? Like, how much could they push him elsewhere? I don't know, but I think they needed to know that like the Lakers would take him at, if nothing else, and like save face, and like this whole operation moves forward. He gets drafted. He completes really a remarkable year-long turnaround from, the cardiac arrest to being an NBA draft pick. I mean, that's pretty cool on its face. And so, I think, the feeling was like, let's shut him down. Let's control the narrative. Let's not have it feel like he's sliding in the draft because X team had interest, whatever. Like, let's pigeonhole him to this destination and make sure he lands where we want him to land. I do think it will be hard for him in LA, but I'm also not sure that anyone else would have had that much interest, right? I think a lot of teams would have had some interest in him on a two-way. The problem is, like Rich Paul has been very open, like Bronny was not taking a two-way, right? I think there was the Australia comment, which has been quite blown up. It's also not new, right?
Yeah.
Manipulate second-round picks, or agents manipulate second-round picks all the time to try to make sure that they get kind of desired terms and desired destinations. So, look, I think the concern to getting him guaranteed money kind of required him going to LA. And so because of that, you deal with the fishbowl and you deal with the high expectations.
And now we begin the Bryce James watch to see if he winds up on, what is he? Was he a senior this year?
He is a rising high school senior, 2025 high school recruit. And I've seen him play a few times, and I think it will be harder to spin than the Bronny thing. Let's put it there.
Really? Okay. I haven't watched him at all, so just Instagram clips is what I see of Bryce James.
He looks taller, which makes people interested
Yes.
because everyone views the main issue with Bronny being the height. But he has more work to do than Bronny did at this point to make himself a viable prospect in any form. I think right now, like, if he was, Bryce Smith instead of Bryce James, like he'd be very much talked about as like a run-of-the-mill mid-major prospect.
I like this new trend, though, of superstars getting family members on the bench. You got Giannis and Thanasis, you got LeBron and his kid, and Bronny, and like, who's next? Like, does like Steph Curry have a cousin that he needs to get drafted? Like, someday Victor Wembanyama is going to have somebody over and playing in Paris that he wants on the Spurs. I love this trend. That's great.